Hey guys, my name is Scoby and welcome back to another video. In today's video I'm going to be showing you how to play PSP games on your Xbox Series S and your Xbox Series X. This is going to be a nice, quick and easy tutorial. I'm going to be showing you step by step how to do everything. Let's jump right into this. So I will mention for today's video, you're already going to need to have both dev mode and Retroarch already set up and installed in your Xbox Series S and your Xbox Series X. That's not something I'm going to be showing you in today's video, although I will be leaving a card on screen and a link in the description down below to my previous video where I show you step by step how to do that. Once you have that watched, you can come back here and I'm going to be showing you specifically how to set up and play PSP games. From this point I will mention we are no longer going to be using my Files Explorer for this method. Instead we are going to be using the mapped network drive. This is because in the previous version of dev mode it actually broke my Files Explorer, and just to avoid any potential issues in the future we're going to be focusing on a mapped network drive. If you followed my most up-to-date Retroarch and dev mode video, we set up a mapped network drive there. Otherwise we're going to be setting that up next, but if you already have this done, just skip this step and then we can continue to set up the PSP. Now I will mention for this map network drive, if you have already watched my most up-to-date video of setting up Retroarch, I did show how to do that there. Although if you didn't set that up previously, I will be showing it step by step. You can feel free to skip this step and just jump over to transferring files over. So the first thing again we need to do is open up our Xbox device portal. This of course can be found on the dashboard of our dev mode. You can find this access portal and we're going to need to open this up in any browser that you want. From this point what we're going to be doing is coming to our left bar right here. We're going to be clicking on File Explorer and this is going to open up the File Explorer section. Once we're here we're going to be coming to the top right and we're going to be clicking on this browse option right here. This is going to open up a pop-up that's going to allow us to access remotely some files on our Xbox and access the internal storage on our Xbox. So to do this what we need to do is copy this URL here at the very top. We can highlight it, we can right click and we can click copy. And we're going to be opening up a File Explorer on our Windows. We're going to be clicking on the URL path right here. We're going to be pasting in the URL that we just got. And we're going to be clicking enter to enter here. Now if this is your first time doing this, it may ask you for a username and password. All of this information is also stored here, so you can simply copy all of this for your username and password. Now this can get a little bit annoying as every time you want to get back here, you will need to manually enter this URL, you'll need to manually enter the password, and you'll need to manually enter the username. So instead what we're going to be doing is two things. The first thing we're going to be doing is opening up our command prompt, and we're going to be automatically saving this password and username, so we no longer have to enter it manually again. To do this again, we're going to be opening up our web browser and we're going to be copying this CMD key here at the bottom. We're simply going to highlight it, we're going to right click and we're going to be clicking copy. From this point, we're going to be opening up CMD in Windows. To this, we're going to be coming down to the bottom left. We're going to be clicking on our search bar and we're going to be searching for CMD and we're going to be looking for the command prompt right here. We're going to left click to open this up and our command prompt should open. Once this is open, all we need to do is right click here. It will automatically paste everything we have. We simply click enter and then we should get this result here, credential added successfully. And that basically attaches this username and password to our Windows, so it'll automatically remember it every time. From this point, we have made it a lot easier. However, now from this point, you still need to know this URL every time you want to actually access the remote files. So what we're going to be doing is one extra step. This is optional, but we're going to be setting up a mapped network drive. So it'll actually be saved in our Windows so we can easily get back here whenever we want. What we're going to be doing again is copying this file path. We're going to be opening up another file browser in Windows and we're going to be clicking on this PC right here. And then here at the very top, we should have this option map network drive. We can left click to open this. And here we're going to be able to enter a new drive that will automatically store this location. And since we've already saved the username and password in Windows, it means we'll really easily be able to access back here whenever we want. So the first thing you need to do is assign a drive letter. So you can choose whatever you want here. So I've already done this to my Z drive, but you can attach it to another drive, for example, Y, or any other available letter here in your Windows. We can then enter our folder location. So here you can just Control V again to paste in the folder location that you've set up previously. You can then enable automatic reconnect and sign in. I'm going to be disabling this, but you can feel free to enable this and you can connect using different credentials, although we're not going to be doing that in today's video. Once you're happy with everything here, we can click finish and then you will have a new mapped network drive that will show up here like this. It'll mention development files. It will then show the URL to your Xbox and now clicking this will open this up very easily. So we no longer have to locate back here manually. From this point, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be opening up the Windows apps folder and here we should see all the currently installed apps on our Xbox.
So at the top here we have my Files Explorer. Underneath this then I have two folders named Platinum Fox, and they have Retroarch mentioned in the title. This is my Retroarch folder, although depending on the version you're using it may be named slightly different, but there will be two folders here. Previously this folder started with 1E4C, although this can depend widely depending on the version you're using and depending on if it's a nightly or not, so I really don't know what to expect here. But you're going to be looking for some folder named Retroarch or something like 1E4C. Once you've located this folder, we're going to be looking for the second one on the list. It'll typically be a much larger folder. As you can see, this is around 1.4 gigabytes and the other one is around 3.5 kilobytes. We're going to be opening up this second folder, and here we should see all of our default installed Retroarch content. What we're going to be doing from this point is creating a new folder here that's going to store our BIOS files, or a brand new system folder, or creating a brand new system BIOS folder so we can access and transfer all the BIOS files we need for our emulators over here, or for today's video specifically the GBA emulator. What we need to do is right click here. We're going to be creating a new folder, and I'm going to be naming it System. And this is going to be our new system or BIOS folder for Retroarch. After this, we're going to be heading over to Retroarch and we're going to be manually mapping this so Retroarch knows to point here instead. While we're here, we can also add a couple of extra folders. We can add a saves folder, we can add a save state folder, we can add a config folder, and we can even add a games folder. Here you can pick and choose all of the different files that you will access regularly from Retroarch, and we can remap them so Retroarch will look here instead of on the internal Xbox storage that we cannot actually access any other way. Doing this method, we will easily be able to access this. We can make backups, we can make copies. So this is definitely a method I'd recommend doing it. But for today's video, the only one that is necessary is creating a system folder, although you can feel free to make any of the other folders here as well that you like, but it is totally optional. From this point, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be launching Retroarch from here, and we're going to be brought up to our Retroarch UI. From here, we're going to be coming to the left, we're going to be coming to settings, and now we're going to be scrolling down until we see directory. And here we can see the directory for all the different assets inside Retroarch. So the first thing I'm going to be looking for is the BIOS and system file, as you can see right here. We're going to be clicking the A button to open this up. Once this opens up, we're going to be scrolling down until we see the S drive. We're going to be clicking the A button. We're going to be scrolling down to program files. We're going to be coming to Windows apps, and then we're going to be looking for our Retroarch folder, the same one that we've seen on our computer. So for me, it's Platinum Fox. I'm going to be looking for the second folder, and here I'm going to be looking for my system folder. I'm going to be clicking use this directory, and now what we've done is we have remapped this directory to our system folder on our mapped network drive. So Retroarch will now search there for our BIOS files instead of the default location. So from this point, you can feel free to update any of the other files you want. I'm going to be doing my config file, my save file, and a couple of the other ones. From this point, once you have everything mapped, we're simply going to be clicking the B button to come back out of here. We're then going to be coming to our main menu, and we're going to be coming to our configuration file, and we're going to be saving our current config, just so all of these extra changes are in Retroarch. The next thing we need to do is open up our Retroarch folder on our computer. We're going to be coming to our system folder, and here we're going to be placing some PSP assets so we can actually play PSP games on our computer. From this point, we need to open up a web browser. We're going to be coming to this link. Links is always in the description down below, and this is going to be for the PPSSPP website. Here, what we're going to be doing is coming here. We're going to be coming to our menu bar here at the top, clicking on downloads, and we're going to be downloading the latest version for Windows in a .zip file, which is 1.12.3 in a .zip. Simply left click this to download. We're going to let that download, and then we're going to be taking those files. Once you have these files, we're going to be moving to a location where we can find them easily. We're going to be extracting this zip. Simply right click, click extract all, click extract, and then our zip file is going to extract. Once this is extracted, we can delete our previous zip file here. We can just remove it. We're going to be double clicking into our PPSSPP folder, and here what we're looking for specifically is this assets folder. So what we're going to be doing is right clicking. We're going to be clicking copy. We're then going to be going back to our previous page. We're going to be pasting this folder that we just created with the assets inside. I'm going to be deleting my PPSSPP folder, and I'm going to be renaming this assets folder to PPSSPP. And this is exactly what we need for our system folder in our Xbox. What we're going to be doing from this point is just dragging and dropping this folder over to our system folder on our Xbox. And these are going to be the necessary system files we need on our Xbox to be able to play PSP games. The next thing we're going to be talking about is games, and I will mention from this point, I'm not going to be showing you where to download or get any games. You will have to get them yourself, otherwise create a dump or backup of your existing PSP games. When you download your games, they will most likely come in a .7zip or a .rar format. In Retroarch, we'll first need to extract these before we can actually open them up, and we will need either WinRAR or 7zip for this. Again, both of these will be linked in the description down below. So currently I have Tekken 6 here in a .7zip file. What we're going to be doing to extract this is right click. We're going to be hovering over WinRAR or 7zip depending on what you downloaded, and we're simply going to be extracting the files.
Once you do this, your game is going to be extracted out, and what we're looking for is a .iso format. Currently I have two games here, Tekken 6 and God of War Chains of Olympus, and they're both in a .iso format, and either of these formats will work just fine on Retroarch. From this point, we have two options to actually play these games on our Xbox. The first is transferring to the internal storage on our Xbox. You can do this of course in the games folder like I created previously, or anywhere else inside this Retroarch folder. Otherwise you can bring them to an external drive and play them from there. Since PSP games don't get too big, normally not more than 2 GB, playing them from an external drive is still possible and shouldn't give too many issues. But if you are having any issues with loading speeds or some games not loading at all, I would recommend bringing them to your internal storage. For today's video I'm going to be using an external drive, but if you are going to be doing that, make sure it's USB 3 just to get fast loading speeds to avoid any issues. So either of those methods will work fine. From this point we're going to be heading over to our Xbox. We're going to be continuing from there and we're going to be setting up the final things we need to, and then we're going to be playing some PSP games on our Xbox.
So now that we're over on our Xbox, I will mention if you are using an external drive like me, you might get this pop-up on screen when you first connect it to your Xbox. If this is your first time plugging in your drive, you might get this pop-up asking if you'd like to use it for Xbox game storage or media storage. It's really important here that you select media storage so we can add whatever files we want on here. Otherwise, if you select game storage, it will fully wipe your drive and only allow you to install Xbox games on this. So it's important that you make sure this is entered correctly. However, some people have had issues with Retroarch and with the latest version of dev mode. I would make sure your drive is formatted in an exFAT format. I've read this can help with some issues. So inside Windows, all you need to do is right click your drive. You can click Format, and during the formatting process, just make sure to select exFAT like you can see on screen. And hopefully doing this should make your drive readable and having no issues inside Retroarch. But this is something to keep in mind. Once Retroarch is open, the first thing we're going to do is coming to our main menu. We're going to be coming to the load core option, and here we're going to be scrolling down until we see Sony. And here we're going to be looking for Sony-PlayStation Portable or PPSSPP. Simply click the A button to load this up, and we'll see on the bottom left it's loaded up fully. The next thing we're going to be doing is loading games. To do this, we're going to be coming down to load content. We're going to be clicking the A button, and here we're going to have to locate to where our games are. Now, if you're like me and you have your games on an external drive, they're going to show up on our E drive. However, if you move them to the internal storage on our Xbox, they will appear in your S drive right here. You simply need to come here, come to Program Files, Windows Apps, locate to your Retroarch folder, and then find them wherever they are inside here. So for me, I have my PSP games here. For today's video, I'm going to be loading up Tekken 6 in my .iso format as mentioned previously. So once you have it, simply click the A button to load this up. Again, if you have multiple cores that can read this file type, which we do in today's video, we simply select our current core, which is at the very top here, the PPSSPP, click the A button to open this up, and then our game is going to load. Now, depending on if you're loading this from the internal storage or the external storage, your screen may go black here for a couple of seconds. You need to wait until this loads up, and then your game will load. Just like that, my game is loaded up. You might get all this information on screen to set up your PSP for the first time. Don't worry, just go through this and then your PSP should load up. Now, the PSP performance is mostly good. Some games will run a little bit weird and there can be graphical glitches depending on the game you're running, but overall I found my experience to be quite good with the PSP on the Xbox Series S and the Xbox Series X. From this point, we're going to be opening up our on-screen menu for Retroarch. To do this, you press your menu combination. For me, it's down and select, but you can do whatever you had set up previously. From this point, we're going to be scrolling down until we see the options tab. We're looking for this right here. We're going to be clicking the A button to open this up. And here we're going to be looking for a couple of core and Retroarch specific options. The first thing here we have at the very top is the internal resolution. And here we can set a couple of things to the scaling of the original PSP resolution. So here you can try to scale it up depending on the game you're playing. This can affect performance a lot, so be careful when you're using this and it will require a restart to come into an effect. We can change our CPU mode here and our clock speed, but I wouldn't recommend playing around with these things unless you really know what you're doing. We can change the language. By default, it's automatic and I didn't have issues, but if you would like to set it to a specific language, you can do that here. We can change what our confirmation button is. So by default, it's cross, which is X, or the A button on our Xbox controller. However, if you're in Japan or some other Asian countries, by default, it's actually circle to continue rather than X. So you might want to change that here. So it's nice that we have this option. We have the rendering mode, which is buffered, although you can feel free to skip buffer effects if you would like here as well to skip some different things. We also have our frame skip options here if that's what you're interested in. And then we have a couple of extra texture and software options here below as well. I'm not going to be going over all of these, as for most people you won't need to be touching many of these things, but they are here if you'd like to come in and take a look. What I showed here at the beginning are some of the most important settings. You can feel free to take a look at any of the rest here. Again, some of these may require a restart to come into an effect, but I typically recommend after making any changes to just restart anyway. It's probably the best option. Finally, you can come up to manage core options and you can save game options only if you want to save it for this specific game. You can save content directory options, and you can even reset all options to default here as well. So you always have this option here as well as default. The last thing I'd recommend doing is creating a game playlist. It'll basically concatenate all of your games into one little section, so it'll make it a lot easier to select your games. You won't have to manually select the core or locate your games every time. I'm not going to be showing you that in today's video, although I will be leaving a card on screen and a link in the description down below to my previous video where I show you how to do that. It's definitely something I'd recommend, and it makes your Retoarch experience a lot better, especially if you're using a lot of different consoles. Anyway guys, I want to take this moment to give a huge shout out to the channel members, Sean Daly and Joshua Davis. Thank you guys so much for supporting the channel, I really appreciate it. If you'd like to have your name shout out in future videos or some other perks, be sure to click the join button on any video on the channel, it would really help me out. Anyway guys, it's as easy as that to play PSP games on your Xbox Series S and your Xbox Series X. If you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to drop a like. Subscribe if you're new, check out the other videos on the channel. If you want to support me, be sure to drop a super thanks to this video, I'd greatly appreciate it. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching. Until next time, as always, keep it saucy. Peace.